Today I'm going to talk about the animations in React Native, and in this presentation I will show you how to implement well-known animation patterns using React Native. At the beginning also I would like to say thank you that you are coming here, that you are building the community of React Native. So thanks on the beginning. A few words about me. I'm Łukasz Walczak. I'm working as a front-end developer at Stack in Warsaw. If you are if you want to know something more about the company, you can chat with me after the meetup or with Farron, who will join me here. So generally, I'm working for 8 hours in Stack doing the React Native, sometimes just in React. And then in my free time, I'm trying to contribute to open source project. Now I'm mainly focused on working on open source project called React Native Paper. It's just like a material design for React Native. And on GitHub, you can find me as Łukasz Walczak, but on other platforms, you can find me as HappyRU nickname. My presentation will consist of 3 parts. In the first one, I will go through the building blocks of animation using React Native. And the goal is to give you a closer look at how to construct and compose the animations. Second part is based on social media app examples where we present you existing animation and my adaptation with code explanation. And the last part, about the performance, will cover wrong and correct practices with some advices. So let's start the journey. Our first stop will be values. So we have 2 types of them. First one for single value, and the second one for vectors. Animated gives you 3 ways to configure the animation. Each type provides an animation curve that controls how your defined value will change from initial step to the final value. And we have 3 types. First of them is animated decay, which starts with an initial velocity and gradually slows to stop. The second one is spring, which provides a simple springs physics model. And the last one, timing, animates a value over the time using the easing functions. Easing functions basically specify the rate of change of a parameter over the time. So, and we can divide them in 4 sections: predefined, standard, maths, and so on. To illustrate you how it works, first example is bounce easing function from predefined group, which let's say that x is our height value, and we will change it over the time. So it's going to constantly increase back to 0, increase more, and back to 0. The second one is standard cubic easing function, which starting fast and gradually slows. And the opposite of it is sinusoidal, which starts slow but increasing the speed. To compose our animation in some order, animated gives us 3 ways to combine them, and the first one is parallel. As name implies, starts all declared function at the same time. The second one is sequence, which starts the animation in order but with successive delays. We start the animation in order, waiting for each to complete, and then before starting the next one. And the last one is stagger, which may run in animation in parallel, but are started in the sequence with successive delays. It's very similar to parallel, but allows you to give the delay. you should know that only 4 components have the magic of binding the animated value to the properties. Those four components are image, text, scroll, and view. But don't worry, if you want to give your component this magic, this power, you can just easily use create animated component function and wrap inside it your component. Let's talk about the interpolation. Interpolate function allows input ranges to map to output range, generally using linear interpolation. We should know also that input range is the range of values between which animated value changes, and you have to know that input range must always increase in value. And the output range can be anything what you want, as long as you provide the same number of values, like in the same value for the same number of values to input range. How it works? Check the code. In this case, we'll animate the opacity from 0 to high, and our output range is 1 to 0. So this block will blank. Interpolation supports also mapping to strings, so you can interpolate rotation when you are passing degrees, or you can animate colors, just putting the screen with RGB color. I know it's a magic, so we can go further and learn something about the native driver. You should know that animated API is serializable. So by using the native driver, you can send all of animations, everything about the animation, to the native side before it starts, and allows native code to perform it on the native side. On the UI thread without having to go through the bridge from JS to native all the time. So it's very useful because the animation has started and our JS thread is blocked. Animation will still run smoothly. How does it work? We have to know that the most steps are done on the JS thread. So every 16 milliseconds, our value will be calculated on the JS thread, then sent through the bridge to native, and then applied. So if it's blocked, we'll skip the frames. And what's more, it has to go on every frame through the bridge, so it's going to update all the time on native side. To avoid it, we can use native driver, which first on JS side serialize all the animation, then send on the native, and we don't have to care about it on the JS side. And we eliminating the need to call back into the JS thread, and allows native side to perform the animation. How to use it? Just to your animation, add the use native driver property, set on true. I know that you like to listen about the theory, but it's the perfect time to go to examples. So sorry, we have to go to social media app animations. We'll start from the animation from the Instagram called double tap the photo. If you have Instagram, probably you know this animation. So the user is tapping the photo twice. So we have to cover 3 steps. First is when we want to see the heart, we have to change the opacity from 0 to 1. And we are doing it parallelly with scaling the heart to give the heart bouncing effect. And after the bouncing effect, when the photo is light, we have to disappear the heart. So we are changing the opacity and we let the opacity comes back to the initial value. According to what I said, first two animation we will do parallel, but all of them will do in sequence. So will be composed sequential. So we can say that it means that the last one animation, I mean change the opacity to the initial value, will be activated when the first two animation will be done. Scale and the opacity are the values which will we animate, and initially they are 0. Let's dive into the animation code. Animation is started by setting a state to true, and then heart is scaled in parallel by animated spring in parallel to value 2, and then parallel with scaling we are changing the opacity to value 1. The last step is hiding the heart, and we are using animated timing to set the value to 0, to the initial value. And what's important, I didn't reset the scale value, so I'm doing it in the start callback function. Which will be done, which will be called, fired, when the animation is done. Scale value is interpolated in 3 steps from 0 to 2. As I said at the beginning, we have to increase the input range. And as I said, output range can be anything as long as input range. This interpolation generates a new value which we can apply to transform scale property along with opacity, which just accept the state value. Heart component is an animated view, consists of 2 views, which are shapes of the heart. It's like 2 halves of the heart. And the last step is just using the component with injected heart style. How does it look? I think it's really similar with the original, but I'm subjective, so. Probably you've heard about the Tinder app. If you don't know, it's briefly it's a dating app, and I'm going to present you 2 animations come from this app. The first one is navigating between photos on the Tinder profile. Probably after this presentation you will hate my face. It's everywhere in this presentation. So as you probably noticed on the previous slide, on the GIF, if you click on the right side, you'll get the next photo, but if it's the last photo, you will see the animation of flipping the card about some angle, and the same case for left side. We're tapping the left side, you will get the previous photo, and if it's the first photo, you'll also get the animation of flipping the card about some angle. We will animate only one value, single value in Spring animation. It's our flip card animation, flip card function, which is using the animated spring, setting 2 value depending on the left side. If we are on the left side, we'll flipping the card about the negative angle, and opposite of it, if we are on the right side, you will flipping the card about the positive angle. And in the callback, we will set animated value to 0. As before, we are interpolating our value. We are mapping to string about the 15 degrees and injecting the style rotate card to transform rotate property. And this flip style we are adding to animated view, which have inside the image, and under the image are located two touchables, where on press prop is fired the animation function, and we have to check first, is it first or last item, and then we are using flip card function with argument on the left side and without on the right side. It's my adaptation of Tinder animation. I think also it looks identical. The second animation comes from the Tinder, is swiping user card. It's more complicated because we will use pan responder. Swipe, maybe I should explain. Swipe means dragging the item to left or right side, according the what we want to do. We want to like or just nope the user. So this animation will consist of 4 steps. We'll drag the item, rotate it on axis Z, showing the result like or no, and at the end, when we are decided, we'll drop the card somewhere outside the screen. It sounds really easy, but is it? So as I said, we are swiping with the card. So we see no or like result. When we are not decided, we can just throw it and it will back to the initial place, initial position. And we are decided, we can just throw it. To the current value which we have, we'll add the animated responder value, which is this time vector value, because we have to follow the current coordinations. So we'll add pan responder on our lifecycle component will mount, and using on start should set pan responder, we firstly have to ask to be the responder, and then on move should set pan responder. This function will be activated on when the position is different than initial position. On pan responder move function is called every time when the component is moving. So thanks to this fact and in using animated event, we can follow current coordinations and set to vector values. On pan responder release, you can tell what to do when our finger is released. That means that it's our starting point for decay animation, and where we are putting deceleration and initial velocity. As I said, it's starting with initial velocity and gradually slows to stop. And velocity comes from gesture state, from pan responder. So when the card exceeds 1/4 width, maybe to right side, and will be dropped somewhere. And if your finger is released, it will be dropped somewhere outside the screen on the right side. And the same situation for the left side. But if you are not decided yet, and you are between the quarters, you are in the middle, and you will drop the card, it will back to the initial position. Once more, we are interpolating the values. So depends on which side we are. We will show the opacity, nope, or like result. And as you can saw on the GIF, this card is little rotated on Z-axis. You'll check also here. So previous animation, it's working, and we can drop the card, and it's little rotated. The last one example comes from Messenger application, and we'll change the thumb emoji on the Messenger and set it on Snowflake to check the perfect animation. So the question is how we can achieve it with React Native, with CSS. We can do it in 4 steps. Snowflakes will fall, zooming, scaling, random falling, and at the last step will be blanked. So in state we are keeping snowflakes array and animation counter. Everyone knows the person who likes to constantly running the animation, so we have to prevent for it. So we'll count the animation. The maximum counter is 3, probably like in Messenger app, and our snowflakes array will keep snow animation, which consists of 30 objects with 3 properties, such as animation is basically animated value, and initially it's just the height, right? It's a boolean to rotate the snowflake clockwise or against, and the last one is start. It's just the initial position from which snowflake is starting to fall. Snowflake will be falling for 5 seconds. All of them will be animated in with 400 delay. And here we are using native driver because we can be afraid that our JS thread will be blocked, because even you can, during the animation, you can send the message on the messenger, so it can block the JS thread, so we should avoid it and send it to native site. Like previously, we are interpolating translation, opacity, and in this step we should check that I set the snowflake will be blank. Yeah. So why output range is 0 to 1? You know? Okay. Let me explain. Our input range has to increase. So we can't start from the hive and go to 0. So we have to change the situation, and we have to start from 0 to height, and in this case from 0 to height minus 200, and in this case opacity is going from 0 to 1. It's just like this is hive, this is this is hive, this is 0. So here we want to have this is 0, this is hive. So it's going from 0 to hive, and we are going to get the snowflakes blanking. And also we will animate the scale, and we will spin the snowflake. This is how it looks on my adaptation. It's not skipping the frames, it runs really smoothly. Okay, let's say something about the performance. In this case, I will show you some correct behavior, correct practices, and some advices. So, using native driver, of course, it's accepted. It's the good practice because it's a correct approach, because animation run in a different thread than JS won't drop the frames when JS is doing heavy work, and to display the difference with and without the native driver, let's check the GIF. On left side, of course, without the native driver, and on the right side with native driver. So probably you see the difference. It's dropping. It's skipping the frames.
Is it because you keep clicking?
Yeah. I was tapping constantly. In this case, I was just displaying one snowflake. I decreased the value from 30 to just one, and tapping the snowflake constantly. But you should know that native driver has some limitations, such as position doesn't work with Sorry, let's back. Position doesn't work with native driver, along with margin, paddings, layout stuff. And also, you cannot animate the colors with native driver. It's because the calculation is done on the JS and needs to be ported to the native, but as my friend Satya, core contributor from React Native, said, it's not nobody done it yet, so you cannot do it. The second step is setting the state during the animation. It's bad practice. You cannot doing it. You should avoid it, because a render can affect the animation. It can affect the performer, which is running on the JS thread. And it's better to do it before or at the end, but never in the middle between animations. Do animations declare clipping? Of course, yes. You should use interpolation. You should use animated eye, add, multiply. Some people doesn't know. It's not bad. That in animated there is a loop function, and there, instead of using animated loop, in the callback function, they're putting the next animation, the same animation. So use the animated loop instead of it. Using the panel responder, this is the place where I put no result. Because if your animation is pretty simple, like swiping the card when I was using the panel responder, it works really cool. And I didn't overload the JS thread, so it works. But if you are going to overload the JS thread, it's better to using the library made by Krzysztof Magiera called React Native Gesture Handler. That's all from my side. Thank you.
I think we have time for a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
If Łukasz is willing
Sure.
to answer. So.
If you want to ask about something, or if you are shy, we can chat after the presentation. Let's go.
I just noticed that you keep animated value in state. Yeah. So animated value returns object with functions. Yeah, am I right? Interpolate, for example.
Okay. Yeah, it generates new value.
Yeah. Is it bad practice? Keeps function in state. So, and I saw that it's bad practice using set state, but maybe it connected, you know?
No, I don't think so. Setting the state during the animation can affect, because you are trying to overload something. You can use animated add, multiply. You can play with this value, but you shouldn't do it in the middle of it. But you can keep it in state. A lot of developers doing it, keeping the animated value in state and just setting it before or at the end. So it's wrong. It's just a setting between.
Okay, I saw another way for using for keeps animated in this, for example, not in the state, but in this component.
In this of what do you mean?
In the scope of component.
Mm-hmm.
In constructor.
Could you repeat? Sorry.
Not in the state, but in the, for example, it's creating constructor.
Yeah. You can as well doing it.
Maybe it will be better. For example, if we compare with state.
If we are talking about the performance,
yeah.
I think it won't affect. It will work good as well.
Don't you need to keep it in state to force the re-render?
Not exactly, but I don't know which example do you mean? Because I was keeping constructor probably I was not keeping, because snowflakes were different, because I was keeping in the array and then I was mapping it to some other animations, but
it looks weird when you have this state and function.
Mm-hmm. On which example it was?
All there.
Okay, but mainly you can keep it in state. Okay. It's not bad.
It's not bad practice. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Or you are trying with?
Yeah, I just asked.
Okay, because maybe you have other experience, and I will ask.
I just saw another way and.
Okay, cool.
Could you maybe open an example?
Yeah, but I don't know which one we should.
Maybe like a simpler one and start.
Yeah, so he's.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, but that's what I said is different, because I'm keeping animations and then I'm mapping it to new animated value height, but still I'm keeping it the state, and it's performing pretty cool, as you saw on the example gives. Like in the other example, I also keep in the state, and it works pretty cool. So I'm sure that it won't affect your animation.
But the state, I mean, you're just keeping a reference to the value object. It's not changing the state anymore when it's animating, right?
No. You can change it.
Yeah.
In callback function, but during?
No, what I mean is the animated value changes, but your state stays the same because it's just a reference to this object.
I've got a question about foiling snowflakes.
Okay.
You mentioned that you used native driver there, yet when you discussed the limitation that you can't use native driver for position and so on. So which parts of this animation are using native driver?
We are just position. I mean, I was using translation and I was rotating, but maybe position is not the proper word. With height,
okay.
You can't animate. You can animate layout. Position, I mean absolute or something like it. You can't animate with native driver with along. But yeah, maybe I should explain it what I mean.
For example, he said about the background color. So there is no animated for background color, but people use some hacks, so you can animate opacity. So you could use two rectangles of different color, change the opacity, and you would animate the color.
Yeah, crossfade.
That's actually what they use, for example, on scroll on the list view, which is also animated, and they use it to move photos. So you need to do those hacks because if you want to animate something is not implemented, you will need to implement it in the code.
Yeah, sure.
Why do you use the callback set state, but then use the current state for building state?
This one?
Yeah, so you're using this state snowflakes where
because I'm spreading first the animation, the snowflakes which I have currently in the array, because the animation counter was free. So in the one time, currently you can have in the array 90 free multiplied by 40 by 50. You can have 90 snowflakes in the array. So first I'm spreading the snowflakes which are currently in the array and adding more new one.
Just to note that this set state, when you give it a function, it passes the state as an argument.
Yeah.
And then you shouldn't use this state.
Yeah, but still, it's not the animation. It's not the. I'm not doing it in the middle of animation.
Yeah, I know, but I'm I'm just like technically.
Yeah. Okay, but it's not the animation point. It's starting here, so it's before the animation.
One question. Do you have any good practices of organizing animation code? Because it can get really long even for simple animation when you move a couple of elements at once.
Yeah. What I can say, because for example, in React Native Paper library, open source library, I'm creating, for example, fab floating action button group animation, also like on Google Calendar you have. So tapping the button, it's rotating about some angle, changing the icons and appearing 3 additional small floating action buttons. And my code after some examples was so messy. So the first what I do, I divided a lot of functions which I have, because for example, first you have to rotate the button to display the model with additional buttons. Then after it, if you are clicking something, hide it. So I was keeping in the one function, and because of state, I was distinguish what I should do now. So the first one, practice divide a lot. If you can, just keep another separate function for it, and just in one some point, just collect them. Like at the end of it, just toggle. Just use, for example, function toggle model, and then using the state, you can distinguish which one. It's also good to have very experienced people in your group. So I was always sending the code for code review to our friend Satya, who is very, very strict in his code review. But it's an additional practice, because not everyone have this person in your team who will check your code. What's more I can say about the practice, how to manage the code? I don't know. If I will find something, I will tell you.
I have 2 more questions.
Yeah,
it's one question, by the way, too. So, for using native driver, understand the only reason when not to use it is when we have features which it doesn't support, when we're controlling values. Or are there any other reasons why we shouldn't use?
As I said, if you will overload the JS thread, you should use the native driver.
The question is when I shouldn't use it, because from my point of view, it's better to always use it when I can. Or is there a reason why not to do it?
Why not to do it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Only.
The limitations.
Only about the limitation.
And is it somewhere well documented? Which parts are not supported?
No, probably there's only article. Probably it's only it's only article on React Native documentation. There's an article made by someone, I don't remember, but it's mentioned about the caveats and some limitations. But that's all. It's like, for instance, from crashes sometimes. Hey, you can do it. Like with input range. If you put 1 to 0, for example, you are decreasing the value. You'll get the error with some name, I don't remember. It's called monotonically increasing. That input has to be increasing.